Most of the time in Scripture, leaven is a warning. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 5:6, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And Jesus says in Matthew 16:6, beware the leaven of the Pharisees. And during Passover, God commanded Israel in Exodus 12:15, remove every trace of leaven from your houses. So leaven was usually a symbol of sin, the residue of yesterday creeping in to corrupt the whole. But then in Matthew 13:33, Jesus shocks us, and he says that the kingdom of heaven is like yeast a woman took and hid in 3 measures of flour until it was all leavened. So at first glance, it feels like a contradiction. Is leaven sin? Or is leaven the kingdom? Here's where the word study of the original words crack it wide open. So in Hebrew, leaven, seor, it means leftover lump. It was literally a piece of yesterday's fermented dough carried forward to start today's bread. Residue. Leftover memory. Trauma. A lump of the past spreading through the present. An old imprint carried forward to define today. That's why it symbolized sin. Unprocessed residue that, if left inside, infects the whole body. But in Greek, the word Jesus uses for yeast is zyme. It's where we get the word enzyme. And unlike the old lump, zyme describes a living process, fermenting, bubbling, coming alive. This is where Scripture meets science. Enzymes transform what enters your body. They break down what is raw and unusable, converting it into fuel for life. Spiritually, that's what the yeast of the kingdom does. The Spirit acts like a divine enzyme in your soul. He breaks down the raw material of your humanity, metabolizing fear into courage, shame into dignity, pride into humility, sin into virtue. Like lactic acid breaking into energy, the Spirit takes what once fatigued you and turns it into fuel. And neuroscience agrees. Your brain is not static, it's plastic. Every thought and choice fires neurons. Repeated enough, they wire together. Old patterns, trauma, sin, habits are the old lump. But when you practice forgiveness instead of resentment, gratitude instead of despair, faith instead of fear, you literally rewire your nervous system. You metabolize the residue into virtue. That is the yeast of the kingdom working in your mind and body. So here's the distinction. Leaven is the old lump, yesterday's residue of the flesh, unprocessed trauma repeating itself. Yeast is the hidden living ferment of the Spirit, metabolizing the old into the new until the whole being is transformed. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 5:7, purge out the old leaven that you may be a new lump. Why? Because Christ isn't reusing your leftovers. He plants something fresh, a hidden yeast of the kingdom. And just like natural yeast, it works silently, invisibly, secretly. But given time, it permeates everything. So Matthew 13:33 could be read like this. The kingdom of heaven is like a bubbling, transforming aliveness hidden inside of you until your whole life is risen. Not spoiled, not residue, but living, rising, metabolizing sin into virtue, weakness into strength, death into resurrection. No contradiction, just redemption. Jesus wasn't stretching when he said the kingdom is like yeast hidden in flour. He was describing a biological truth. Unseen processes transform the whole body from within. The kingdom is not about avoiding fermentation, it's about redeeming it. Leaven is trauma left unprocessed. Yeast is the spirit, the divine enzyme, metabolizing that trauma into virtue. Your brain rewires, your gut heals, and your whole self rises. You are not condemned to repeat the old lump. Your trauma is not the final word. The yeast of the kingdom is already hidden inside of you, rewiring, reshaping, resurrecting until the whole of you rises. You are the dough in God's hands, rising with the yeast of His Spirit. And if He planted it in you, nothing can stop your becoming. Be loved and be loved, beloved.